Welcome to the Flat Track Factory. Today we'll talk about two of the most effective tools for rebuilding engines and suspension in my toolbox. We'll talk about why I use them, and perhaps they may help you out in your race program. Stick around. All right, I'll admit that's a little gimmicky, but I wanted to get your attention and offer up a perspective. This is, of course, my perspective. What works for you may be different. I've been doing this a while, and I thought I might share with you how I came to think like this. This has to do with something called core competency. Working on an engine and suspension is a very fine and particular skill that takes many years of many iterations of trial and many errors to be good at. And I simply haven't done that. It's not something that really interests me and not something that I've done a whole lot of. So if I did it, I wouldn't be very good at it. Most of us do this as a hobby, maybe a very serious hobby, but a hobby nonetheless. Very few of us actually make a living racing motorcycles in America. So this is about fun for almost all of us. Well, probably all of us. I want to maximize my fun throughout the year, and I find that reliability, consistent handling, and smooth tractable power, not necessarily the most power, but smooth tractable power, are the most beneficial for my program. And I can't do those things. So for me, in my program, in my experience, I find that hiring an experienced professional to work on my engine and my suspension gives me the most fun. Since we're winding down, and I thought this would be a bit of a conversation, we'll try some White Zombie from about an hour north of here in Morganton, North Carolina. This certainly is an opinion piece. Bit of perspective, kind of a bench racing session almost. All right, let me address the completely valid criticism that's being screamed at me from the other side of the screen right now. Yeah, dude, I haven't got the money for that in my program, and I totally get it. But it's all relative, and let me steal from one of my college professors who did a very similar demonstration with me on another topic, and it's kind of always stuck with me. I want to use some poker chips. I could do this another way and just tell you, but this is a visual medium and you apparently like one because you're watching it. So let's do a little demonstration and see if I can illustrate my point. All right, I know this is a little cheesy, but it'll illustrate our point and maybe be a little fun. Let's pretend that this butcher paper here is going to be our race season. And here is our chips. This is our budget for the year. I did a little calculations and kind of figured out what things basically cost, and because I know all of our budgets are different, I didn't want to give you a number necessarily, just to illustrate a point here. So we're going to do some local races, two big races, have a professionally built engine done and professionally done suspension prepared for us. So we'll jot those down here and then apply our budget and talk about it. So here's our race year. We're going to say we're going to do these 14 races. 12 of them are going to be close to us. They'll be about the same price, relatively inexpensive. This is going to include wear and tear on your equipment, fuel for your transporter, race fuel, entry fees, hot dogs, things like that. So it's going to kind of include the whole thing. And then we're going to have a professionally built engine, and he's really going to make it a hot rod for us this year. And we're also going to get a hold of a professional suspension specialist, and they're going to work with us and get us set on forks and shocks. So there's our budget for the year, and we're going to go ahead and allocate that. We're going to say we're going to do some local races, and these are about the same price. It's about this many chips. I know my poker players are telling me, hey, these chips mean different things. There's different values. Yeah, I know that, but I don't play cards, and this is just an example. So just pretend they're all the same thing. So there's our races that are close to us. They're about the same thing. And we're gonna do a couple of races that are more expensive. Right? I lost some of my chips here for my other race, my other local race. Right? Just relative. So use your imagination. So that's what it's going to cost us to get to those races. This one's a little bit farther, and this one's really far, and you got to buy a license for a different organization. So that's a little bit more expensive. Now, this over here, relative to that, is what's going to cost a professional suspension guy to do your suspension for you. And then over here, we're getting serious this year, and we're going to have the Big Daddy motor by a guy who knows what he's doing and has got a lot of experience. So there we go. That's kind of a lot. Here comes the blasphemy. And I can hear the typing on the computer getting ready, knuckles cracking. This maybe is not the best use of our funds, particularly if you're a beginner or you are substantially off the pace with a motorcycle that's assume it's at least tuned well and carbureting well and running well. If you're substantially off the pace, more than a couple of percentage points on lap time, this probably is not going to help you that much. It's always fun to have the latest, greatest, trickiest parts, and you got the unobtainium who's-ats and the carbon fiber doodads and all that sort of stuff. But the bottom line is, a lot more power doesn't help with a lot more lap time. It just doesn't. This here, per dollar, will get you a lot more lap time. We're saying this is as good as a suspension as you can get. This is as good as a motor as you're going to get. And this one has a bigger effect on your lap time than this one. So maybe this year we shouldn't spend all that money on an engine. My perspective about this is I want to have fun. And to have fun, I have to finish first. Or really just finish. As long as I finish, I'm having fun. And then these dollars, these chips are spent successfully. I have to finish the race to have fun. If I break, I consider this money wasted. So where do I think my lap time and my reliability is coming from? Well, I think it's in a well-prepared motorcycle. In this example, we're saying well-prepared motorcycle is a professionally built suspension set and a professionally built engine. Do we need the big Mac Daddy motor? Well, if you're gonna buy into my hypothesis that a big amount of lap time does not come with a lot of the power, how about we remove this expense here, and instead of getting the ridiculous motor, maybe we just get a professionally built engine done with reliability and tractable power in mind. Because this is a lot of money here. This is a lot of money to make one of these trips and have your stuff fail, to me, is a failure. It's a waste of that money. So maybe in our budget, we don't even have this money. So you would have to get rid of all 12 of your local races just to be able to get the cuckoo bird motor. Let's just do one more example and then I'll quit. Let's say that you don't even have in your budget this year enough to have the engine professionally gone through and freshened just with what you got. Well, how about we just get a good, reliable, low-hour stock motor and run that for the year. Particularly if you're running a primarily short track program, a lot of these tracks are traction limited, and a lot more motor is, again, not going to give you a lot more lap time improvement. So reliability, particularly when you're starting out, and this video, you know, I'm trying to be general so it can apply to a lot of people, but particularly for my newer guys who are kind of watching to kind of just figure out how some of us older guys are thinking, I would not fiddle with this column until your lap time is towards the front. And when I say towards the front, I mean kind of towards the front of what's possible, not just in your class. Because a lot of us, when we're coming up, are leaving a lot of lap time on the table with our inputs, what we're doing. You know, I haven't even got into what we're doing with the motorcycle to provide the lap time. You know, at some point I'm going to address physical fitness and body composition, because you know that's something maybe a little personal, but it makes a difference, and that's really not talked about a whole lot. I haven't addressed it yet, but I'm going to soon. All right, if anybody's still watching, thanks for bearing with me on that. I know that was a little hokey, but I've talked to two guys today that are in the process of setting up their program for this year and thinking about kind of how to do it and where to allocate their money. So I just wanted to knock this video out real quick, and I think that was an easy way to do it. So I appreciate you watching. Think about what I was introducing to you, if you haven't already, about kind of your overall budget, where you get the most benefit, what your lap time and your fun costs, and I would definitely, in your own mind, apply your budget to the goofy poker chip trick and decide, do I really need to spend that money? Where is my fun and lap time? And I would argue your fun and your lap time come from seat time, being on the bike. Do more races and finish those races. Make sure that your bike is running well. I think if you're working on the motorcycle while you're at the track, at the club level, you are degrading the amount of fun and learning that you can do. Maybe some small adjustments to play with it, but really you should be just riding the motorcycle, making sure everything's tight, making sure your pressures are in the ballpark, your gearing is right. Those are the things you should be focusing on, not trying to figure out why your bike's not running. Is the timing off? Is the carburetor wrong? That's why going to a professional engine builder, while expensive up front, has huge benefits to your program, which is running up front in your class and finishing races. So that's what I think. I may be totally wrong. I'm looking forward to hearing some other people's perspectives. So as always, I love to read your comments. I try to respond to every one of them that I get, and I appreciate you taking your time to do that. Thanks for watching.